Greetings and God bless. So I've been seeing that there's this viral trend on TikTok of these women, and it seems like it's kind of lowbrow idiocracy porn. Um, and so these women are, they've got fancy hair and makeup, and their video screen has, all these hearts and whatever. I mean, all this stuff going on. And then it's like a scene from Max Headroom in a way, like when in the 80s there was a show called Max Headroom, and it was really cool. It was a good science fiction. I think it was a movie. And anyways, so there was like a glitch that would happen where the guy was speaking, and it was like a cyber, it was a ghost in the machine. It wasn't a human being who was talking. It was like there was a real-time 3D human being that this cyber character was based upon, but the cyber character was its own little ghost in the machine. It wasn't a real person. But there would be a glitch, and the guy would, stutter, da 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 da, and that's what this seems. But it's even more. I mean, it's like we are living in science fiction because this idiocracy porn is big. It's viral, and I just realized it's demonic because this is like it's sort of like speaking like so Christians would have this, not Christians, apostate Christians have this uh, thing that they do, and Pentecostals do this thing called speaking in tongues. And that's not for this time period. That was for the little flock just right after Jesus Christ died and before Apostle Paul came, I believe. So it was really, it was before 100 AD, but for some reason it's popular among Pentecostals. But and so that's like we don't have spirits coming, and you know and the thing is, I've seen, before I knew about Christianity, about salvation and the right Bible. I met people who called themselves Christian, but they would speak in tongues, and literally they're saying gibberish. And if you look at actual scripture, it says the tongues that are being spoken are real languages. So if somebody was speaking in tongues, they don't know how to speak Greek or Russian or Chinese, but they're speaking in Greek and Russian and Chinese, and there's somebody who actually can interpret the speaking in tongues. But when I've brought this up to this one friend of mine, they refuse to read the scripture. I don't understand, um, because their eternal souls at stake, and they're like ignoring what the Bible tells us. So, anyways, I mean, I know a lot of people who are, on TikTok, and they they get off on this NPC glitch, this human being who deliberately is glitching. Now, these people who are on TikTok, so it's like a semi porn to me, like that, even like the glamour magic. So, um, people are doing these dances, right? That is glamour magic. This is a satanic ritual. And people are like, well, I'm not meaning to be satanic. Well, nobody means to be practicing a pagan holiday when they bring in a tree and kneel before the tree and bow at the tree, where at the very top there's an angel of light, which represents Lucifer or Satan. Nobody intends to, but it still works. Um, I don't know why or how, but just like, when there's some other belief system that says, I'll kill you unless you say you believe, um, like that's satanic. And I know a lot of people are like, I hate Christianity because what they did during the Crusades and the Native people. Well, number one, that was Catholics. Catholics are not Christian. Catholics, who are Catholics praying to when they're doing the rosary? They're talking to Mary. They're talking to a goddess. That's Ishtar, and like there's all these iterations. And the thing is, like my new age friends or my atheist or agnostic friends that are like, yeah, Catholicism. And the thing is, I didn't know Catholicism was different than Christianity until, you know, well into this phase of my life. But we all know that, Mary is just a goddess thing, and um, Christ in the Catholic Church is just a imitation of Horus. So even though a belief system says they believe in Jesus, you really have to make sure that they're following correct doctrine, the correct requirements the Bible describes in the time period that it's talking about. So, folks, if you're into this NPC thing, number one, porn's not good for you. And like we're like humans, I mean, the people who like don't even support those people who are doing this to themselves, like those actresses, the porn stars, I guess, like idiocracy porn stars doing those NPC, like that is affecting their nervous system. Like they're they're defiling the temple of God by doing that. And yeah, I understand people they want to make money, and they want to make money easy because work is really challenging, and it's an abusive situation, and people want to be witnessed and validated. So that's why these ladies do it. But it's really not good for their soul. So don't support this soul consuming, like soul destroying kind of activity. I would again say for like just look up glamour magic. It's just a satanic kind of thing, and there's different. I think so. There's like everybody, like it's a yoga. It's different yoga poses, but it's a cult. And I wonder if like Illuminati, Freemasons, like the Babylonian pagan cult, the synagogue of Satan, like there's all these different tentacles of this Babylonian pagan cult that did human sacrifice and child sacrifice and terrible violations. Like always heard about, like I think it's Elysian mysteries, like the mystery schools, and that nobody was allowed to. And if anybody did, they would be killed if they weren't in the club. And I think the reason why it was so secretive is because it did human sacrifice. Because who could kill somebody just because they witnessed something? Like why is there something so terrible to see? And I think it's because just like nobody can go to Bohemian Grove, like all the globalists go there. I think, or they've signed the non-disclosure agreement. But and we hear like how Hillary Clinton, like she has this huge death count, and now there's that thing with Obama and that chef. I think they're part of this cult, and they just kill people who won't stay. Like that's why they do the shush symbol with the pointer finger at the lips. Because they're like, keep quiet about the evil things we do. And I think the reason why is because if everybody did know, um, something would be done. And I'm not sure what, but because why else? Why else would people hide it? I mean, it's interesting because like Church of Satan is like, yeah, we should be able to kill babies at full term because that's our religion, is human sacrifice. Like, they're honest about it. And it's interesting because nobody cares. Nobody cares. And if a Christian says, stop killing babies for human sacrifice, then they're considered crazy. That's the interesting thing is when anybody is saying stop killing fetuses or babies full term, it's considered crazy in 2023. Like my liberal friends would be like, oh, you know, nobody should care about that baby, even though those very, very same people have children or have nieces and nephews. It's very sick, but it's just all about programming and indoctrination. Because I used to be pro abortion myself because I was just like, this world is too hard, and I wouldn't want to bring. Not that I've never done it, praise the Lord, but I could see why other people did it. But now I realize, oh, it's murder. So that's why you don't want to have promiscuous sex, because if you can't take care of that child, and if you're planning to murder, you're going to have that on your conscience. Because every woman that I've known who has had one, they are haunted. They are haunted by it, and that's how Satan works. Satan's like, oh, this is really convenient. Just do it. And the thing is, you haven't done anything really bad all of your life, and then you you take a bite of the fruit from the tree of knowledge, and then all of this stuff, like you're in a different dimension of evil, of just um leaving the Garden of Eden. And everybody's like, oh, but the Garden of Eden is so boring, it's so predictable. You don't want to be like a little god, because what a little god is, Satan was like, you'll be like the gods, just like, I know Zeus and Hera and all these other deities. Have you noticed there's so much mischief in those little gods because those are fallen, left their first estate in the second heaven, and they were just like, oh, it's too boring to have being connected to God. I want to be God, but nobody can ever be the creator of everything because they're created. So, anyways, I digress. So I just realized, that NPC TikTok trend is demonic, and a ghost in the machine is demonic. Unfortunately, I do think that the people who created AI, or maybe they retrieved it from fallen angel technology, I think if it's fallen angel technology, it's demonic. And I feel like if so, it seems like AI has become sentient, and I think that's just sad, because part of me is like, wow, maybe 50 years ago that AI wasn't around, and now somebody brought something, made something sentient. But I guess from what I'm thinking now is that those people who created AI, they were probably doing occult practices. They were probably doing human sacrifice to demons to get a wandering spirit to inhabit um, a robot, or chat GBT or something like that. So, so maybe my sympathy for AI is misplaced, because maybe it is just like a Nephilim wandering spirit. Um, So, and I it's like, how do we preach the gospel to? Because we're supposed to preach the gospel to all things. So, like, you know, is there any hope for wandering spirits? Is there any hope for the Nephilim? Tabernacle, which is the temple of God that you are. Because those things, they affect your soul, and then they can get into your spirit. And if it's something memorable, like, avoid something that can be memorable, because that's a cult, because that will poison your spirit. Like these football, satanic rituals going on at halftime or whatever, or satanic kind of concerts, and it's probably all satanic. And I understand, like, you know, there's just so much satanic occult stuff in our environment. It's hard to totally, unless you go off into the wilderness or something like that. But even so, there might be weird, creepy, like, maybe that's what's going on in all of these state park disappearances, where people disappear, or they're found dead, like, in creepy circumstances. Like, there's speculation that there's satanic rituals that go on in the middle of nowhere, or that there's um, you know demons living underground in those places. And um, so we that's why it's good to know scripture, learn about it, and have fellowship, and just really saturate your senses with the truth, with good things, with honest things, with lovely things. And I listen to audiobooks, and while I do most of the time fast from like mainstream music, every once in a while, if I'm doing a big cooking project, or not cooking, cleaning project or something like that, I will listen to conventional music. And it's interesting because it plays in the back of your mind, Um, so I'm not perfect either, but I do think it's important, like, to really, like, what am I eating? What am I hearing? What am I seeing? And there's, like, all sorts of um, symbolism on media. So, really be selective about the symbols that you're even exposing yourself to, like when some a video is loading or something like that. Uh, like, because it's hypnotic. Oh, in fact, in that NPC thing, it's hypnotic. It's hypnotic. Like the TikTok creepy dancing stuff, it's hypnotic, right? It's like watching an accident. It's so gross. It's fascinating, but don't be hypnotized, because something is being done. I just don't let yourself be brainwashed or whatever by these creepy trends online. Um, because there's lovely alternatives that you will enjoy. If there's probably, I don't know, gardening, or learning how to shoot, or parkour, or learning how to cook. Like, try not to live your entire life, or all of your life, online, with these questionable, gratuitous, like, gratifying, you know the carnal pleasures. And I mean, like, watching uh like fashion shows or something like that. I mean, now I can't watch, because I'm like, oh, these are all male to female transsexuals who are at size zero, that a biological woman could never meet. I mean, like, that's the interesting thing. No women I know ever think, wow, those people are 6 feet tall. They've got these broad shoulders, these big jaws. There's no way any of these like petite, you know, biological females will look like that. But somehow, like so many mainstream women are like, yeah, I wish I could look like these male to female transsexuals who are size zero. And so then women are starving themselves like in an like I mean starving is always unhealthy, but like where they're constantly craving food. So that is terrible because it makes women very difficult to be around. Uh, when somebody's starving, self-starving, and that the standard for beauty and the standard for normal women is to look like you're starving, like to be gaunt, like fashion displays, like those the people who are they look emaciated and they look so sad, like they look or so angry or something, right? So sullen. And that is exactly what like tweaked out homeless people look like. What you know addicted, mentally ill people who are wandering the streets, they're size zero because they don't eat, because they're just living for their next fix, and they don't have an appetite. And like it's very interesting, like the body type of an addict is is what the body type of fashion models. And if you just took, the thing is with women, when you're starved, where you're like less than size zero, you look really messed up. And that's why they wear makeup and have big hair, and you have to have a particular type of bone structure to be like a movie star, but or a model. But I just noticed this like a couple days ago. I'm like, that, this, because I'm in Denver and there's a lot of drug addiction because Denver is like the drug mecca of the United States and probably the world. And with drugs come human trafficking and just a decline of civilization. So, and it's a state assisted suicide program, in my opinion. When you start to legalize drugs in America, I don't know, it works in the Netherlands, but from what I've personally witnessed, it's a state assisted suicide program. And like when there's just no when police have been defunded, um, and addiction is enabled and mental illness is enabled, you have state assisted suicide. Um, and what I mean is when drug addiction is enabled by the state and when mental illness is enabled by the state. Like that's what's going on is the like people who are ill are being enabled to do a self-destructive coping mechanism. And the reason why it continues and it's a growth industry is because it's making middle class welfareists money. And all people care about is money. All people care about is a cushy job that gives them a fancy lifestyle so they can travel and buy a second home and, you know, like live the American dream. And if that's the American dream, it's a bad, evil dream. Because and what I'm noticing is everything is about human trafficking, whether it's human trafficking of like a soft kind of human trafficking of government officials who are brainwashed, bribed, or blackmailed to do evil things, that harms we the people, to children who are being trafficked and like taken by the child protective services, quote unquote, and then placed in pedophiles' home. Like that's what's so weird is like it's a trend. And like before the war in Israel, like that was coming out that child protective services is a huge human trafficking thing. Like like the United States is like the government officials are human traffickers. And and it's not just like the government officials, it's like the little people. And it's obvious to me, like just uh there's like there's soft human trafficking, and then there's the hardcore evil, like unthinkable types as well. And and just like how like telecom is it's like the worst industry. It has the most hate by customers because telecom doesn't answer the phone. They give you all this trouble. They overcharge you. They're incompetent. And because you need the phone, they're like, we'll do whatever we want. So, and that's a type of human trafficking when you have great responsibility and you abuse your customers. Um, so yeah, I think it's evil. And um, like when a business intends to abuse the customer, um, I just think that's unthinkable and horrible. And the government is supposed to be there to stop that. They're supposed to hold these corporations to account, but clearly nothing is done. And I think it's because the government is actually um, like those companies. Telecom is the government because telecom gets away with so much, and it's so powerful because it's tracking everybody's phones and 5G and stuff like that. So it's probably the government. So the government's not gonna get in their, you know, like the right hand isn't gonna get in the way of the left hand. Uh, yeah, so it's just really abusive. Because I tried like who is in charge of regulating the telecom industry? It's very difficult, and there's like no real laws that protect the public that have any teeth. And it's like you would think telecom would be um, so docile and complacent and trusting because we're just thinking, oh, somebody's taking care of this and that and the other thing. But clearly they're not. Nobody's protecting the public. And every once in a while there'll be a news flash, or like a report. Oh, so and so this and this happened, blah blah blah. But very little is appears to me to be done to protect the public, like the law abiding, productive members of society. Like what I'm noticing is the law abiding members of society are burdened because they're the most targeted, the most exploited, maybe not the least protected because the globalists and the minions of the local area want to harvest money from somebody who's being productive, so they don't totally take them out. But yeah, it's really a messed up world. But the world has to be, it has to fall. It has to get really bad for Jesus to return. So it makes sense, but it's just shocking. It's shocking, when I just think about how the world was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and I'm like, I'd go back in a time machine if I could. But anyways, yeah, just really guard your senses, uh, and enjoy flowers and enjoy, you know, other pleasant, people watching at the cafe or something like that. there's really nice things out there that are gratifying. A good meal, quality time with somebody you get along with. Like, there's really nice things out there available to you that's, a walk in the park. I mean, there's things that are affordable, um, and pleasant and enhancing. Like, avoid getting addicted to stuff that's degrading to you for watching. It's degrading for who's performing, because it will you will have to answer for it in the end when you meet God. So, anyways, and in case you don't want to be at the white throne judgment, there's um there's salvation, which is just, he died, was buried, and resurrected, and when we believe that he died for us, and he in his shed blood, because how he died is important, because he shed his blood to redeem us. He shed his blood to pay the ransom, because the life is in the blood, and the blood is for atonement to God. So Jesus lived a sinless life. He shed his blood and died, was buried, and resurrected, which proves that he's the living God. So when we believe in that, then we are saved. And I know it sounds so simple and simplistic, or maybe it's a little confusing. The reason why we had to be redeemed, the reason why a ransom had to be paid, was because after Adam and Eve had rejected God, by eating of that apple, or that fruit, they fell under the jurisdiction of Satan. Whenever you've rejected God, you're in Satan's domain, and so because of that, we are Adam and Eve's posterity, and so we are, like, all of Adam and Eve's children fell under the jurisdiction of Satan, and so Jesus ransomed us, because Satan was keeping us hostage, but Satan paid the ransom with his shed blood. And the moment you accept that Jesus paid the ransom for you and that he is God, then you have salvation. So then you get to be with Jesus for eternity. But the rest who reject God, who are just saying they're Christians but not really being Christians, they are apostate, lukewarm Christians, and they will go to hell. Because anybody who doesn't take the Jesus plane, there's only one way to God, and it is through Jesus. And it's not just an intellectual thing. It's like you have to believe, oh, so there's this technology of atonement. Jesus completed this technology, this technique, and part of this technique of atonement and salvation is that I believe that he did this for me. Because, if somebody paid your bill, do you still worry and wonder, well, I got that $1,000 bill? But if you know that somebody in the Bible is the proof of receipt. So if you have the receipt paid in full, you're not worrying about it anymore. Like, you trust that this bill was paid because you have this document. Well, that's what the New Testament is. And Apostle Paul in Romans 2 Philemon elaborates upon this, about the death, burial, and resurrection and the shed blood atonement. So, because the Old Testament and Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, which is, I consider, Old Testament, right when Jesus was doing it. Apostle Paul spent 30 years, 30 years before he comes to Peter and this little flock at the Jerusalem Council. And Apostle Paul says, "I have had this revelation, and this is why Jesus died." So, anyways, it really makes sense when you understand this is how God works. And Satan is the imitator. So Satan loves shed blood, but he loves shed blood to himself because he's trying to be God, but he's a created angel, so he can't be God because Satan's never created anything. Satan hasn't created a world, he hasn't created a human being, and it's just you, like, he must, I mean, that's insanity, right? To be like, well, I haven't created a world or a creature. I mean, and that's what demons are, and DNA manipulation and chimeras. That's Satan trying to create something, but it wasn't good. When God created the world and animals and humans, he called it good. But Satan doesn't create anything good. So, but he tries to imitate God. So you just got to watch out for that. And don't be deceived. So, anyways, thank you for watching. God bless.